everybody. Welcome to another episode with the Crime and Coffee Couple. My name's Allison.
And my name's Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, Al, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Oh, just wonderful, wonderful. We want to say thank you to everybody listening. And really quick, if you are listening on an Apple device, I challenge you to go ahead and get a free subscription to our podcast, and you can listen to all the bonus episodes you can for like 3 days. So it's a perfect week to do it. I think this week of all weeks is probably the perfect
absolutely.
week to do it.
It feels like it.
Yeah, or you could just jump right in and be like, listen, they deserve it. I like these guys. I've listened 5 or 6 times. I'm going to try to get some more episodes. Go for it. So also available on Patreon and all that good stuff. So now that we got that, thank you for all your support and all that good stuff. But yeah, what's been going on this week?
Well, if you follow us on Instagram...
And I do.
You do?
Yeah, I sure do.
And happen to see our post from yesterday, it's kind of uncanny how everyone knows how frugal Mike is. And
Big
when
air
I
quotes.
say frugal, in one of the comments I said cheap as hell. We've lived in our house for 12 years now, and the dishwasher is as old as our house is, which is like 20 years.
Yeah, I think 2004. So yeah, it's old.
So all since we've moved in, our like parents and your parents were like, we should go in and get them a new dishwasher because it's so old and just doesn't clean well. There's like no room in there. And then Sunday it just didn't start. And I was like, this thing is on its way out.
Now,
finally, I did get it to go on.
Yeah, it still worked, right? So now how well it's working. I mean, I'm sure at least it got hot, so we know that. So it's like at least sanitizing like it should be. So I barely use the dishwasher because the dang thing doesn't wash anything. And you insist every single time, like, put the dishes in the dishwasher, even though like it's
Every day.
I think we've talked about this ad nauseum, which I think you don't really know what that means. But
No,
that
I
means,
said if I ever say the word ad nauseum, don't say a word to me. Just walk up to me and punch me in the teeth.
I'm like, it's not bad. Ad nauseum. Like you talk about it so much that it's annoying. Like instead of saying, I'm sorry if I've talked about this so much that it's annoying, but I guess.
I would like some brie with a side of ad nauseum.
Like who the hell do you think you are using a term such as ad nauseum?
Let's peel back the onion on this one. So brie and ad nauseum. So brie is cheese. You know that, right?
Do you want to put on your smoking jacket and sit in your velvet chair?
Did you know ad nauseum is not cheese?
Well, I know ad nauseum is not
Nor
cheese.
can you eat it.
It is also a word that if I ever use, punch me in the teeth.
Oh, okay. What about brie? You like brie?
Brie is okay.
Okay. So you're just saying it's fancy.
Yes, it's just...
Got it.
Ad
So,
nauseum.
well, next time, if you could make your jokes funnier, I think that'd be better for all of us. All of us listening, and yeah, I'll just hear right now. I think that'd be great. But yeah, we got a brand new dishwasher, and very exciting. Very, it took a long time. I think you've asked like 3 or 4 times. Not that it's like only my choice, because it's both of us. So you just felt like we both have to agree on bigger purchases.
Right, but it's just funny that all of our Instagram followers were like, ooh, Mike actually let this happen?
And my favorite people are the ones that worried about me and are checking in. So thank you. You know me, you get it. And yeah, I was actually kind of excited because it's been so long since we've had something that actually works well in the kitchen. So
I always say this is the house that things just come to die.
Yeah.
Once they die, they're just dead.
There's a good like 15 things that need to be fixed in this house. Did we tell them about the vacuum that fell off the wall?
Oh, yeah, like it fell off the wall probably 3 months ago. It's just a Dyson cordless and it mounts to the wall. Well, it fell out of the stud or whatever it was with the
No, it wasn't a stud.
anchor.
Yeah, just an anchor.
And it's just been sitting on the floor ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll get to that eventually.
We have a bunch of neighbors that were like, oh, they're tinkerers. They just never sit down or whatever. We're like, it's not Mike.
Yeah, no tinkering here at all. I just rather just sit down and enjoy myself.
But I do love you.
Yeah, I love you too. We might, depending on how this new Hurricane Melvin comes in, storm, we might not be around next week. We'll see. I don't know.
What are we going to wash away?
No, like if we have to leave the house.
Oh, I mean, it's so tragic to think of all the people, like my boss, her house had flooded from a previous tropical storm in August. She just got it repaired. She just got her floors redone, everything gutted. And then Hurricane Helene wiped through, totally flooded, unusable house again.
Yeah, and not to mention the people in North Carolina and Tennessee.
Horrible.
And, yeah, there's a lot of bad stuff. So,
But in Florida, it's coming straight towards the Tampa area. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
We'll
just
see.
scary.
Yeah.
I hate hurricanes so much.
if you don't see an episode from us next week, we're evacuating somewhere.
We'll try to get ahead of it just in case. We'll record earlier.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Because gosh knows that everybody needs their true crime fix.
So shall we get into this?
Let's do it.
All right. So this is the murder of Jennifer Servo, and this is a listener suggestion from listener Munchkins Militia. So 22-year-old Jennifer Servo had big dreams for her career in journalism. So she worked tirelessly with the goal of one day becoming what she said was the next Katie Couric. So during her time on air, Jennifer covered most cases, and sadly, it was her own murder that went on to become one of the most perplexing unsolved cases in Texas history.
Wow.
So only weeks after she uprooted her life from Montana to Abilene, Texas, to start her first journalism job after college, Jennifer was found brutally murdered inside her apartment. So Jennifer was born and raised amongst the breathtakingly beautiful landscape of Columbia Falls, Montana, and this town sits on the outskirts of Glacier National Park. I mean, just spectacular. I've never been there, but just looking at the pictures, and we've been to the Tetons. I mean, it's just incredible.
Yeah.
So she was born on September 23rd, 1979, to parents Sherry and Norman. She had a sister, an older sister named Krista. She was 4 years older than Jennifer, and the two were exceptionally close. And according to those that knew Jennifer, she was a very self-motivated person. You didn't need to push Jennifer along to do things. She was 10 steps ahead of you.
Well, she clearly had a goal of being the next Katie Couric.
Right.
So, yeah, probably driven.
And just one of those people that when she had a goal in her mind, she was going to make it happen some way, somehow, even if she didn't sleep at night to do so. So she had a very strong leadership qualities. She remained extremely motivated to continue to always learn and improve herself in whatever it is that she was doing. So during her time at Columbia Falls High School, Jennifer was a popular, outgoing girl. She had a very large circle of friends, just somebody that people like to be around, a positive, fun personality. She was described as someone who was just universally loved. She was a cheerleader. She was part of the cross-country team. And when she wasn't involved in school activities, she was working at the Columbia Falls water slides during the summertime and a local grocery store. Jennifer loved video games. Her favorite was Super Mario Brothers, and she perfected, saving the princess at the end. She was a huge fan of The Simpsons. She had a love of writing. She knew that one day she wanted to do something with writing, and that's where her thoughts started to go towards journalism. So despite growing up in a very small town, Jennifer did have big dreams. And one day she envisioned herself living in New York City in a penthouse. And again, she was going to be the next Katie Couric. And with this, she would always tell her family that one day she would send a black limousine out to pick them up. She would fly them all to New York City in her private jet, and they would whisk them up into her penthouse apartment.
Hey, man, she's, making it real in her head, so it's real in her real life someday.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in order to help finance her college education, Jennifer decided to join the U.S. Army Reserve. Her mom, Sherry Abel, laughs. She recalled that part of what inspired her daughter to do this was the 1994 Pauly Shore comedy In the Army Now. So Sherry wasn't happy with her daughter's decision, but
what inspired you? Was like your grandpa or father in the Army? It's like, no, I watched a Pauly Shore movie.
Pauly Shore.
Really got to me.
The reason why I'm here today is Pauly Shore. So her mom wasn't thrilled with the idea, but, as a good mom, she did support her daughter regardless. And in the summer of 1997, Jennifer started basic training. So Jennifer is the same age as we are.
Yep.
So in May of 2002, Jennifer graduated from the University of Montana in Missoula. She had a degree in journalism. And during her time in college, she worked tirelessly. She was working for both Missoula TV stations for 3 years. She started out first behind the camera for the early show at 5 a.m. And on top of her TV station job, all of her classes, and her guard duties, she was also anchoring on a local radio station.
Wow.
So, she was doing it all.
Well, she's trying to get out there and trying to get known and trying to get that opportunity.
And the experience, too. So it wasn't long until Jennifer transitioned from behind the camera to the front of the lens where she was reporting on the news, and people saw right away that she really was a true natural. I don't know. If you've ever been in front of a camera, it's to me, it's just not a natural feeling. Like, we record for YouTube, and it takes time for me to be comfortable.
Yeah, the first few weeks, it was just like, well, this is so weird. Like, why? What? You look into the camera, you get lost sometimes. You're just like,
So Jennifer, again, she's working tirelessly to successfully, do everything that she could. Denise Dowling was an assistant professor of radio and television and immediately recognized Jennifer's spark and recalled that she was just fully focused on ensuring that she had a career in television. So when Jennifer completed her final reserve duty, she came back home to Montana with the exciting news to share with her family. She was going to be uprooting her life to Abilene, Texas, in order to start a job with a small television station. And her starting salary, it was just going to be $7.50 an hour. And she realized that she was still a long way from her dreams of New York City. But she did, in the same sense, recognize that this was a stepping stone in that direction.
Yeah, it sucks because all the TV jobs and stuff in sports, like everybody wants those jobs. So they can put the prices really, really low, and people are just desperate to get in there. So it's definitely unfortunately something you just got to do to get through it.
Right. So Sherry said that Jennifer was very excited. She had a romantic view of Texas. She envisioned cowboys, cowboy hats, and boots. So on top of the news of her first career in journalism, Jennifer also told her family that she was dating a new man, and this was Ralph Sepulveda. So she'd met him in reserve training at a session that they were doing together. So when Jennifer informed them, though, that Ralph was actually going to be moving with her to Texas, they were very surprised.
Yeah, it's a big move.
So the reason why they were so surprised was that Jennifer had only known Ralph for a couple of months, if that, maybe a month. So we're talking 4 weeks. And they had yet to even meet this guy. And they're hearing that this man is willing to move all the way from his home in Montana to Texas with a girl that he barely knows.
Yeah, what's going on?
So maybe that was a bit of a red flag to them. So they thought that Jennifer was just smitten with Ralph and likely drawn to his role as an Army Ranger, and the fact that he had some bad boy qualities. He had, tattoos up his arms, that maybe that was an attraction to her. So Jennifer's family, they were concerned by the rapid pace that the relationship seemed to be moving, and the fact that Ralph was also quite a bit older than Jennifer. He was 34 years old. She was 22. And, you could say that 12 years isn't a ton, but when you're in your young 20s to mid 30s, that is a big jump in life. Like, she's literally getting out of college and starting her career. He's already, should be pretty established by 34.
Yeah, and I pictured him a little bit older because his name's Ralph.
Yeah,
so
you don't meet a lot of younger people named Ralph.
Yeah, no offense to any Ralphs out there.
No. So Jennifer's sister, Krista, she was wondering if maybe Jennifer made this decision so that she had a sense of security because she's going to a new state super far away from where she lives. So maybe it was almost like a security blanket that at least she knew she would know one person there.
Yeah.
So Krista did talk to Jennifer. She broached her concerns, and Jennifer did become a little defensive. She did end up absorbing what her sister said. She took it to heart, and Jennifer did go on to speak with Ralph and did question that maybe it was moving too quickly. Maybe it wasn't a good decision after all. So she says this to Ralph, and Ralph immediately gives her a guilt trip. He says, look, I've already quit my job and I've rented a moving truck. I'm too far into this. So, she's 22 years old. She's just going with it.
Yeah, I mean, she did say you can move with me, and he did do all those things. So It's like, well, why didn't you tell me in the first place? Like, let's just see if it works.
Yeah. So Jennifer rented a U-Haul trailer, and she arrived to her new home in Abilene on July 18th after she and her mom made the 25-hour and nearly 1,700-2,700-kilometer drive. So long way.
Yeah.
So Sherry helped Jennifer settle into her new home in the Hunters Ridge Apartments on Texas Avenue. And Ralph arrived 3 days later on July 21st. And this is the same day that Sherry was flying back to Montana. But before she left, she did have some opportunity and time to see Jennifer and Ralph interact, because I'm not quite certain this could potentially be the first time that Sherry is meeting Ralph. And she knows he's moving in with her, granted, Jennifer's an adult, but still, that's Sherry's daughter. She worries.
First time away from home, too. So it's kind of crazy. I guess she went to the Army or Reserve or whatever, but yeah.
And she went away to college, but a lot was happening very quickly.
Right.
So Sherry noticed that Ralph did seem to treat her daughter nice. They seemed to interact well together. So she thought, okay, well, maybe I'm just going to give this guy a chance, because what other choice do you have?
Right.
So the next day, it's Monday, July 22nd, and this is the day that Jennifer started her new job at NBC Abilene, and this is the affiliate station KRBC TV. So she worked alongside anchorwoman Jennifer Lauren and weatherman Brian Travers. And her new coworkers, just like they did in college, they immediately saw that she truly was a natural. Lauren, and I'm saying Lauren, it's Jennifer Lauren. There's two Jennifers here, so I'm just going to call her Lauren. Lauren was well aware that in their industry, it was kind of cutthroat, and you either had it or you didn't. And Jennifer clearly had it. She hit the ground running from day one. Another anchor, this is Downing Bowles, he said that it was very obvious that Jennifer had the tools that she would need to move up in the industry to bigger and better things, aka this New York City apartment that she dreamed of. So after seeing Jennifer's talent up close, they kind of made the assumption that she saw this as a stepping stone. It was probably, in their opinion, going to be a pretty quick stepping stone.
Like, it's like she's not going to be here long.
No.
She's going to the next step.
They just assumed she would likely move up the ranks sooner rather than later.
Wow.
So Jennifer kept a journal, and according to her diary entry, within less than a handful of days of living together, Jennifer couldn't stand Ralph. She felt that he was absolutely smothering her. He did not have a job. She felt that she was being taken advantage of financially. And the deal breaker came when Jennifer learned that at the time that they met, and again, we're talking like maybe a month before, not only had Ralph been actively engaged to another woman, but he had also fathered a child during this relationship, and he never saw his child. And that was just something that it was just a deal breaker for Jennifer.
Oh, yeah. It's like, if you're engaged and not even seeing your kid, like, I don't want that kind of guy in my life.
What kind of a deep connection do you have with somebody that you would just up and leave them, and especially your own child?
Yeah.
So after Ralph told Jennifer the startling news, she was just done. She asked him to move out of her apartment, which was only weeks after they began living together. So on August 6th, Ralph moved out, but rather than heading back to Montana as one would expect him to do, he has no roots in Texas. The only thing that brought him there was Jennifer. He decided to stay in the area, and he moved into a nearby apartment. So Sherry recalls that she did have a feeling of relief when Jennifer told her about the situation, but at the same time, she also worried that Ralph could potentially retaliate somehow. You know, obviously it was Ralph that was the one that was broken up with. It was not his decision. It was Jennifer's. And it really worried Sherry that Ralph was still nearby. She would have much preferred if he just went back to Montana. So, however, Jennifer assured her mom that everything was fine and that she and Ralph they were still friends. So Jennifer did go on to tell her friend that a few weeks after their breakup, Ralph did come back to her apartment. It sounds like he was kind of groveling and trying to beg and cry his way back into her life. But she held firm on her decision, and she was just done. And those that cared about Jennifer did feel relieved by the fact that she was holding firm on her decision, because they kind of saw what Ralph did as weaseling his way into her life and her apartment, and they felt that he was mooching off of her, both financially and emotionally, and they were just glad to see him out of her life. And when you are trying to focus on a career such as journalism, you're kind of married to your job.
Oh, yeah. You're doing that more than anything. Like, super early, there to super late. Anytime news breaks, you got to be available. Like, it's just pretty much on call 24/7.
And that's the beauty of being a 22-year-old single girl in your own apartment, is that you can come and go however you please. If they call you at 2:00 in the morning and they want you to cover something, you're going to be out there so that your face could be the one behind the camera, or in front of the camera, I should say, and your face is part of the news. So it only makes sense to me that she is single at this point. So with the weight of the relationship now off of her shoulders, Jennifer truly seemed to blossom and thrive in her new environment. And according to Brian Travers, she seemed to be so much lighter and carefree after Ralph moved out of her apartment. She also told her mom just how happy she was, kind of like her whole life was coming together and she could see that it was falling into place.
Yeah, she has more opportunities. She's not held down and smothered.
Right. So she has this new job pursuing the passion of journalism, her own apartment. It had a swimming pool. She liked that. She had her cat. She had cable TV.
What else do you need?
And as far as Jennifer was concerned, that's all she needed.
Well, that's awesome.
So only 8 weeks into her new role, Jennifer was quickly an essential part of the KRBC team. So in September of 2002, when Jennifer didn't respond to a call to cover for a sick colleague, her coworkers were immediately concerned because Jennifer was a go-getter. She was going to be there.
They called her and they're like, I know she's going to take this.
They knew she would just snatch it up. But, I'm assuming they left her some sort of message and she didn't call back. And that was out of the ordinary. So Jennifer normally worked, her typical schedule was Thursday through Sunday, and she had just last worked this past Sunday. But they were hoping that she would just come and cover the days that they needed her because they were short-staffed. So Jennifer Lauren and Brian Travers decided to drive over to her apartment to check on her because they knew this was so out of character, even though she had truly only been there for a couple months.
Yeah, crazy.
So they noticed that Jennifer's car was in the parking lot of her apartment, but then they knocked on her door and she didn't answer. So they left and they just hoped that she would turn up soon. But then 2 more days went by and calls to Jennifer continued to go unanswered. And it was clear that something was wrong. So when the news director, this is Toby Dagenhart, he was updated on the situation. So he decided to call the management company of the apartment complex. He spoke with someone, explained the situation, and asked if they could go over to her unit to check on her, kind of like a welfare check. So Jennifer's colleagues recalled hearing after this phone call went down and they sent the management company over, they had police scanners within the newsroom, and all of a sudden they hear police officers' voices over the scanner talking about Jennifer's address at the Hunters Ridge Apartments, and they hear the word DOA, meaning dead on arrival. And they were just, it was like a gut punch. They couldn't even believe it. So they were stunned, they were saddened, and they never imagined that only weeks after arriving to start her dream job, they would now be tasked with reporting that one of their own had been brutally murdered. So KRBC made the decision to cancel their 5 p.m. newscast that Wednesday. And I'm saying it's that Wednesday, so they weren't like freaking out alarmed by that point because her typical schedule was Thursday to Sunday. So I think they were still holding out hope that maybe something came up and she went out of town, and that would have been fully within her right to do so because she wasn't missing her regularly scheduled shifts.
Right.
So it was just such a blow that she was gone, So they chose to skip their 5 p.m. newscast, and the only story they reported at 6 p.m. was Jennifer's murder. So anchors Downing Bowles and Sherry Roberts, they had a hard time. These are professionals that are used to being in front of the camera, and even that they got choked up, and their voices wavered as they spoke of their coworker's death. So when the apartment manager entered Jennifer's second floor apartment for this welfare check on Wednesday, September 18th, only 5 days away from her 23rd birthday, they immediately noticed blood on the carpet in front of the bed that sat in the living room. And it was just upon entering the front door, so they would have seen this immediately. So from here, they saw drag marks of blood that led away from the bed toward the bathroom. And the bathroom was situated at the back of the unit. Of course, this is a small apartment. This isn't like the sprawling space. So everything's kind of right there.
Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Shopify is the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret, with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts go abandoned and way more sales going through. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period for 3 months at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
As the manager followed the tracks, they found Jennifer's body draped over the side of the bathtub. Her face was submerged into water. She wore a t-shirt and boxer shorts. So meanwhile, Jennifer's mom, Sherry, she later indicated that she had this weird, unexplainable, strange feeling in her heart for several days before she was notified of her daughter's death. She recalls that because of this nagging weird feeling, she tried to contact Jennifer on both Sunday and Monday. She just wanted to hear her voice to have that reassurance that, okay, I'm just being silly, everything is fine.
Yeah.
But she hadn't been able to reach her daughter. So she was immediately concerned since it wasn't like Jennifer not to be in contact. But she was again hoping that just like what they were trying to do, they were trying to call Jennifer into work to the station. So Sherry was hoping, okay, maybe Jennifer's just busy. She's picking up extra shifts. So 2 days later, all of a sudden now, Sherry is at home in Montana. She looks up and she notices a sheriff's officer at her house. And she recalls that her heart just dropped. And she instantly knew that that officer was there because something had happened to Jennifer. So, of course, you know, when she learned the devastating news, like, how do you come back from that? And meanwhile, Jennifer's dad, Norm, remembers the feeling of crashing through panes of glass. That's what he said it felt like when he heard the news of his daughter's murder. When Krista picked up the phone, this is Jennifer's sister, she heard her mom's voice and immediately knew, just based on the tone of her mom's voice, that something was wrong. And all Sherry could manage to even say was, Jen is dead. So as investigators responded to the scene, they found Jennifer's apartment in a very chaotic state. And this was obviously indicative of an attack. So there was an appearance of someone just panicking and just grabbing items while they tried to figure out what to do. So investigators collected fingerprint, blood, and DNA evidence from the scene. But unfortunately, it was determined that much of the evidence was badly contaminated by Jennifer's cat. This is Mr. Binks. So it took the lab some time to determine the difference between human hair, cat hair, as well as various fibers.
Wow, you don't even think about that.
No, because the cat had been locked in the unit for days after Jennifer was murdered.
Right.
So an autopsy found multiple blunt force injuries to Jennifer's head, and her cause of death was manual strangulation, although they did indicate that the blows to her head were so severe that they alone could have killed her. So her manner of death is obviously homicide. And because no water was found in her lungs, because again, she was found with her body draped over the bathtub, her head was actively underwater in the bathtub, there was no water in her lungs. So this said that she was determined to be deceased before her assailant dragged her across the apartment. It submerged the upper part of her body into the water in the bathtub.
Interesting.
Yeah. So bruising was found around the exterior of her genitals, and this initially made investigators believe that she had been sexually assaulted. However, the rape kit was negative. There were no findings of internal trauma.
Wow, so just external.
Right. And then also the fact that they found Jennifer dressed. She was wearing a t-shirt and boxer shorts. And it is very, very rare to find a victim wearing their clothing when they've been sexually assaulted, because 9 times out of 10, most perpetrators are not going to take the time to redress their victims.
Yeah.
So they assumed then that the bruising likely occurred as her assailant was strangling her. So they see that she's probably laying on the ground and her assailant is kneeling above her, and their knee was probably pressed into that area of her body. And other than a broken fingernail, there was really not any defensive wounds to her body. So whatever happened took Jennifer by surprise. This is a girl that is hardcore. She is a go-getter. She is a fighter. She would have fought back had she had a moment to react to whatever happened to her.
Yeah.
So police began to trace Jennifer's last known final hours. And in the process, they learned that she had been involved in a very brief relationship with her colleague. This is Brian Travers. He was the weatherman, yes, of the station. So he had known Jennifer throughout the 8 weeks that she'd been in Abilene. And on Sunday, September 15th at about 11 p.m., Jennifer and Brian left work to go shopping at Walmart. This was confirmed. So he's telling officers, and then they confirm it by looking at the store's surveillance footage. So the two left around 12:30 a.m., now in the early morning hours of Monday, September 16th, 2002. According to Brian, Jennifer dropped him off at his place. They had picked up odds and ends for his apartment. So she helped him bring things inside his place. He said he kissed her goodnight. He watched her pull away. And this was the last time anyone had seen Jennifer alive. So this is Monday, September 16th.
Early morning hours.
Yeah, or very early morning hours. And we know that her body was found on Wednesday. So after Jennifer got back to her apartment, she called her ex-boyfriend. This is Dave Warren. He was working as a weatherman in Montana, and they spoke about potentially meeting up in Dallas in December. And according to Dave, they're having this normal conversation. He said that nothing was out of the ordinary. She didn't sound concerned about anything. Nothing was wrong at this point in time.
And this was right after the Walmart shopping,
Yes.
so like late, or early.
Late,
1
early.
a.m.
Yeah, because she didn't get off of work until 11.
Yeah.
So their conversation ended at 1:39 a.m. And it was sometime after that, likely within the next 20 minutes, based on a witness account, that she would have opened her front door of her home and let her killer inside. So investigators found no sign of forced entry into her apartment, which led them to believe that Jennifer had known her killer and willingly allowed them to enter her apartment. So it was somebody that she knew and trusted.
We all have a pretty good idea of who
Right.
that might be.
So friends of Jennifer were also adamant that she was a cautious girl. She was safe. She lived alone. She was a girl living by herself, and she would have kept her door locked when she was home alone. She also would never have opened her door to a stranger at around 2 a.m. There's no way. Yeah. So a neighbor who lived below Jennifer woke up at 2 a.m. to a loud noise coming from her apartment above. And this is where Jennifer lived. So he got up because he was awake. He went to his kitchen and he got a glass of water. And at this point in time, he heard two people yelling at each other. And he made the assumption that they were arguing inside of Jennifer's kitchen because her apartment was a mirror image. And that's where he heard the voices coming from, directly above him. So he couldn't make out what they were saying, let alone whether it was two female voices, two male voices, etc.
Yeah.
He could tell, though, that it was a two-way conversation, not that she was talking on the phone with someone, because just the manner of how the conversation was going. So the next thing he hears is running, and the footsteps were moving in the direction of the living room, followed by a steady rhythmic hitting sound. This sound lasted about 3 to 4 minutes. So he's standing in his kitchen. It's early morning hours of Monday. This guy's probably got to go to work the next day. And he is making the assumption that the noises he is hearing is a couple having sex. Maybe they were fighting and now they're making up.
Yeah, maybe it's part of it.
So he went back to bed. So based on evidence as well as the neighbor's account, investigators theorized that Jennifer allowed someone that she knew into her apartment that night. They began to argue in the kitchen. They then moved to the living room where they stood in front of Jennifer's bed. This is all based on the blood evidence found in her apartment. Jennifer was likely struck in the head at this point and knocked to the floor. The assailant likely held his elbow to her throat as he knelt above her, strangling her to death, while striking her multiple more times in the head.
And that's the rhythmic
Yes.
hitting there.
That went on for 3 to 4 minutes.
That's a lot.
I mean, this person is a monster.
Yeah.
So in the process, the assailant's knee caused trauma to the exterior of Jennifer's genital area, and now deceased because we know, based on the findings of no water in her lungs, the assailant dragged her body to the bathroom at the back of the apartment, filled the bathtub, and then draped the upper part of her body over the tub and submerged her face into the water.
Why? Like, I don't get that. Like, she must have been gone by then.
So, despite the fact that she was deceased, the assailant likely submerged her head in the water to ensure that that she was dead. Maybe they didn't check beforehand.
Oh, like if in case she comes to, it's like,
Right.
Yeah, in case she's still breathing, she's going to die. No.
And then maybe to potentially erase evidence.
Yeah.
So because Brian was the last known person to have seen Jennifer alive, he was initially, as the investigation was starting, he was a top suspect in this case.
Of course.
Investigators indicate that he was cooperative. He actually did a walkthrough of her apartment to determine if anything had been taken. Several random items had been missing, and this included Jennifer's Guess brand purse, her cell phone, her keys, as well as 2 DVDs, very random, Saving Private Ryan and Sex and the City. And despite these missing items, investigators do not believe that it was a burglary gone wrong based on the rest of the evidence. So strangely, more than a year after Jennifer's death, on November 6, 2003, books from the Mansfield Library at the University of Montana were checked out using Jennifer's account.
Okay.
So she did miss, her purse was missing. So I
Yeah.
assume her library card had been inside the purse.
Well, it probably went into the black market of library cards because, those are very, very, sought after.
Right?
Yeah.
So, odds are that this was potentially a clerical error. Is this a clue in the case?
Did they
Why
type
would
a number
you
wrong?
possibly use her library card?
You got to be a complete moron to
Right?
be able to do that. Hopefully that's what happened.
So 4 books were checked out, mostly on philosophy, and we never really got to the bottom of how this happened. So Brian explained that he and Jennifer immediately hit it off when she started working at the station. However, obviously when she started, she was with Ralph at the time, so they just started their relationship as a friendship. But after Jennifer and Ralph's breakup, they gradually grew closer and their relationship evolved. Jennifer and Brian did have sex once or twice during their time together, and DNA from Brian's semen was found in Jennifer's bed. It did not prove anything in this case because they were involved in a romantic relationship.
Yep.
So based on Jennifer's diary entries, as well as a conversation, with friends, it's clear that she really wanted just a casual relationship with Brian. So she wrote in her journal, "We sort of had a thing going for about 3 days or so, but I put an end to that. He knows I just want to be friends, but I don't think he likes it." She went on to write that he was a very nice guy, just not her type. So according to Jennifer's friend, she did regret having sex with Brian, but she said that they were fine. Nothing was really awkward too much. A little bit.
It kind of sucks for Brian. He's like, I just went out shopping with her, and now all these diary entries are coming out that she didn't want me at all. It's so sad. I mean,
on top of the fact that the person that you were interested in has been brutally murdered.
Of course, that's by far number one. But also, it's like, oh, and she didn't even like me. That sucks. So I was like, sorry, Brian.
So people did say that Brian carried a torch for Jennifer. And they also went on to clarify that he was a super sweet guy, not at all a violent person. One coworker even referred to Brian as the news station sweetheart. They said he was just a super sweet, nice, fun guy.
Yeah.
So on the other hand, many acquaintances voiced concerns between Jennifer and Ralph and the fact that he left his long-term girlfriend. And when I say girlfriend, they were actually engaged and had a child together.
Yep.
In order to suddenly relocate to Texas just after 4 weeks of meeting Jennifer. Neither Brian nor Ralph had a criminal history, but Jennifer's family and friends immediately suspected that Ralph could be the person responsible for killing Jennifer. So Brian told investigators that he and Jennifer, of course, we know that they were out at Walmart shopping. They did notice a dark-colored car in the hours before her murder that might have been following them potentially. He said first they noticed the car at Walmart and then at his house. And investigators wondered if maybe Ralph was jealous about the fact that Jennifer was seeing Brian.
First thing I thought.
Yeah, they did never say, in none of the research that I looked through, they never said what kind of car Ralph drove, what color it was.
Yeah.
So they thought, maybe he took advantage of the situation and watched her go home by herself and ultimately confronted and attacked Jennifer when she was home. So when investigators spoke with Ralph, he told them that he was home alone that night. He said he went to bed at around 10:30 p.m. after he watched a football game. But because he was home alone, no one could verify this story.
Right.
So that's not a very good alibi.
Nope.
So Detective Bell was immediately suspicious of Ralph's matter-of-fact demeanor. He wasn't at all emotional when he was told the news that Jennifer had been murdered. Not at all.
Weird.
He also didn't seem to be asking the questions that would be typical. I mean, if somebody walked up to you and was like, your ex-girlfriend was murdered, what are the normal questions you would ask?
Oh my God! When? Where? How? How
did this happen?
Any idea? Can I help? Where can I get? Did you tell her family? Can I call them? Did you call them? Yeah, just how to help.
Right.
What happened?
Or holy cow, what happened? How did this happen?
Yeah.
Where did this happen?
Yeah.
Etc.
You're kidding. That's nuts. Are you sure?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. You know what his response was?
What?
Oh, that sucks. Who says that?
I don't know, emotionally unstable.
So
people?
again, he never once
Murderers.
asked how she died, what happened to her, or any details whatsoever that would be expected.
Like, you curious about any of this, buddy? No?
Nothing.
Okay.
So, in talking with two of Jennifer's friends, they also learned that one of the things that Jennifer did not like about Ralph was that while they were dating, he enjoyed strangling her while they were having sex. And this was something that she was not at all into.
Well, yeah, it's got to be like both sides got to be into it.
Yeah,
you know?
consensual.
Yeah,
consensual.
Exactly. And if even one side isn't, it's like, no, okay, we shouldn't do
Okay,
this.
well, we're not doing that then.
Yeah.
So it was not lost on the investigators after they heard this from two of her friends that her cause of death was strangulation.
Sure.
You know, it's just something to keep in mind. So when he was asked about the reported rough sex and choking, he denied that this was true. And investigators asked him, well, why would Jennifer possibly say something like this?
Yeah.
She wasn't the type of girl, from everything I read about, that would just tell lies for attention or no reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
And, you know, when they asked him that, why would she possibly lie about this detail? He responded, I don't know. I wish I could help you. So Ralph was initially cooperative and consented to interviews, searches, and DNA sampling. But then as time went on, this shifted and he refused to take a polygraph test. He later later requests for additional interviews were then refused.
Well, I mean, I get it. At that point, he's only incriminating himself more.
Right.
It's like, why, I already told you no, and that's all I know. So good luck. I think he's probably guilty, but still.
So that's kind of the whole idea with Ralph was he's like, oh, that sucks. I wish I could tell you more. And that's the extent of it.
Yeah.
One source indicated that while Ralph lived in Phoenix before he moved to Missoula, he did, and I'm saying one source because I did only read this in one spot. So I'm just saying, like, take it with a grain of salt. So they said that he had 2 criminal charges of child molestation filed against him.
Whoa.
One alleged that he was actually having sexual relations with a 15-year-old niece.
Wow.
So if that's true, that's really concerning.
Yeah, no kidding.
So after Jennifer's murder, investigators became aware of a letter that Ralph wrote to his ex-girlfriend from Montana right around the time of Jennifer's murder. And in the letter, he indicated that he no longer had feelings for Jennifer, and he insisted that he still loved this woman, who was his ex-fiancée. So obviously, investigators are next going to track this woman down. She said that she and Ralph dated for about 3 years. They were living together. They had plans to get married. But during the summer of 2002, this is the summer that Jennifer moved to Texas. While she was working in Phoenix, Ralph stayed back in Montana. And while apart, he started hanging out with people that she had never heard of. And he told her he was developing a new life. So one time she was trying to call him. She couldn't get a hold of him for a day or so. So she finally tracked him down through his coworkers. And this was when Ralph told her, I've met someone else. I no longer love you. And I'm moving to Texas. So it was super, super quick. So they're saying, okay, so when did you last hear from him? And she said, this was the last time I ever heard from him while I was in Phoenix. And he said, that's it, we're done. So this told investigators that the letter was likely just a ruse to make them believe that he was no longer invested in his relationship with Jennifer. He no longer gave a crap. Why would he possibly go over to her apartment to murder her?
Sure.
So there's no way he was writing this letter. He never sent it. She's like, no, I haven't talked to the guy. So less than 10 days after Jennifer was murdered, Ralph moved away from Abilene. He re-enlisted in the U.S. Army for active duty. He severed every tie with any mutual acquaintance that he shared with Jennifer. He did not attend her funeral, whereas Brian, who had only known Jennifer for 8 weeks while she worked at the station, he traveled to Montana for Jennifer's funeral, and he continued to keep in touch with her family in regards to any updates that might be happening in the case. That is the normal reaction.
That's exactly what I was saying. It's like, how can I somehow be of use? You've suffered a horrible loss here.
Right.
Any kind of human being would try to help.
And again, everyone that knew Jennifer, described her as universally loved.
Yeah.
If somebody that you cared about got brutally murdered, you would care.
This guy, Ralph, just totally sounds like, the narcissistic sociopath
right.
that you hear about all the time.
So just now recently, the Abilene Police Department reached out for help from the TV show Cold Justice, which is an investigative true crime series that reopens unsolved murder cases with the consent and assistance of local law enforcement. So they hope that the team could potentially bring Jennifer's killer to justice, despite the fact that over 20 years have gone by and not a single arrest have been made in this case. So prosecutor Kelly Siegler and Abilene detectives pored over every single aspect of this case. They re-interviewed old witnesses. They reevaluated the crime scene as well as autopsy reports. They looked at previous statements with a fresh set of eyes, because sometimes that's just what does it.
Yeah, you catch something somebody missed.
Exactly. So in 2023, when investigators tracked down Ralph, who was now living in Honolulu, Hawaii, for the filming of Cold Justice, he indicated that he had absolutely nothing more to add to the case. He voiced his apologies that the detectives had just wasted a trip to come and see him. He remained completely unconcerned, and just as was the case 21 years previously, he never once asked, "How is the case coming? Have you had any leads?
Right.
Any luck?"
Yeah.
Nothing. He didn't ask if there was a suspect. Not a thing. So meanwhile, Brian Travers was tracked down. He was living and working in Des Moines, Iowa. He did decline to be on camera or have their conversation recorded. So when they first called him and explained, he's like, let me get back to you, and then ended the call. And he did. He got back to them. He talked to them, just not on camera or recording. He was cooperative. As the case was reevaluated, now this new team from Cold Justice, they were discussing, okay, what are our options here? Who killed Jennifer?
Ralph.
And they came up with 3 potential possibilities.
Yeah.
An unknown assailant, Brian, or Ralph.
Well, we're back at square one.
So
congratulations, Cold Justice. You really cracked this one open.
they actually did a good job. So because there was no sign of forced entry and neighbors did not hear her screaming, friends backed up the case that Jennifer was a cautious 22-year-old. She's living by herself. It's somewhere around 2 a.m. She's not opening her door to somebody she doesn't know. They eliminated the possibility of an unknown assailant. Cross that one out.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're down to 2 choices.
Just like we were before.
So now we're looking at Brian with a fresh set of eyes. There was absolutely nothing in this guy's history that indicated that he was ever capable of violence. Witness statements pointed him as a very wholesome guy. He had been, yes, the last known person to see Jennifer. They left work together. They went shopping together. That's very innocent. That does not make him a killer.
Was his apartment searched and all that good stuff?
Oh, yeah. They went shopping together and all that. They did their due diligence when looking into this.
Yeah.
So he remained cooperative over the course of the investigation, even at the advice of his own lawyers, who are like, no, don't talk to these guys.
You've already given him enough. Don't give him anything else. Like, just if you slip up or something, and assuming Brian didn't do this,
Yes.
it's like, if I was a lawyer, I'd be like, just listen, man. Like, I know you're trying to be helpful, but all you can do is hurt yourself.
Right.
Here. Yeah.
And being a caring, nice guy, he did continue to talk to investigators.
He sounds like a nice guy.
So investigators believe that he was far more interested in Jennifer than she had been in him. And that happens, an unbalanced relationship.
Yeah.
He was described as maybe a little dorky, socially awkward, but he did voluntarily provide his DNA. He did travel to Montana to attend Jennifer's funeral. He kept in contact with her mom throughout the years.
You can also say, was he getting a little obsessed with her?
Right.
Who knows?
And it wasn't like, he calls all the time. It was like normal check-ins. Yeah. So because of this, the team from Cold Justice also crossed Brian off the list.
Okay, so now, again, we're back to where the Abilene searchers
Yes. So investigators felt that all roads lead back to Ralph. So they believed that he was angry. He was scorned after he traveled and uprooted his life, went all the way to Texas, only to be broken up by Jennifer.
Sure, all this it makes a lot of sense, but it's just a story for now. You got to find a lot of proof still.
Right. So, she then kicked him out of her apartment. And for 6 weeks after their breakup, this guy sat in his nearby apartment by himself with little to no furniture. He failed to rekindle his relationship with Jennifer despite the fact that he did come crying and groveling back to her. The anger and jealousy only grew now when he learned about the relationship that she had with Brian. So he also had an interest in sexual strangulation. He had likely written this bogus letter to minimize his love for Jennifer. He quickly re-enlisted in the military. He moved away after Jennifer's murder. He was also completely unemotional when he was told of her brutal murder. He cut all ties that connected him to Jennifer, and he was just completely detached about the whole thing. So that's kind of where we stand to a degree. So currently there are no other suspects besides Ralph. And during cold justice, detectives plan to present their case to the prosecutor seeking charges for Jennifer's murder against Ralph Sepulveda. They had a meeting with the DA's office. They are currently seeking charges or going to a grand jury on Ralph. So the team sat down with Jennifer's mom and her sister, and they updated them on the status of this investigation. They shed tears of relief, finally believing that there could be hope, that maybe, just maybe, despite the fact that 22 years have passed since Jennifer was murdered, that maybe they will get justice for Jennifer. And that is the thus far unsolved murder of Jennifer Servo.
Oh, that sucks.
Yes.
Man.
And I did say in the beginning that this was unsolved.
Yeah, well, I forget things.
So as we sit now, but if you are a bonus listener, if you heard our case that we presented on Wednesday, what was it? Was it 48 years went by in that case?
You know, we had some comments on that case, and people were like, "This is like one of the most interesting cases ever that you guys have done." I'm like, "Oh, that's kind of nice to know."
So the case we covered on Wednesday happened in 1975, and they just got resolution on that case.
Yeah, go use your free trial and go listen to it on the Wednesday's episode.
But it just goes to show that you can't give up. So they are moving. There are moving pieces happening.
But unless they found some DNA from that site, like, you know, they said the cat ruined most of it. Like, I can't believe the cat ruined all of it. Right?
They didn't say all of it. The cat made it very difficult to comb through.
Yeah, and at the same time, you know, Ralph was a boyfriend, so his DNA is probably going to be there, right?
Yeah, they had broken up
Yeah.
like weeks before.
Yeah, 8 weeks before or whatever.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
But still, his DNA is probably going to be around, right?
Potentially, yeah.
So unless they find a murder weapon, where there's none because it's choking.
It was with their hands.
Yeah. And so I'm sure, you know, being an army, ranger, that he knows to, you know, wear gloves and stuff like that. Like it's probably going to be pretty clean, I would guess. So
I don't know. I guess time will tell. But
Shoes,
Jennifer's
yeah.
family does have a sense of hope after all this time went by.
I sure hope so. I mean, everybody's listening right now. For sure hope so. But
Of course.
Can you see anything better than like him just agreeing to a lower charge? Like, I don't even know if they'll be able to bring up charges. I don't know.
I don't know. It's just something about unsolved cases. Just obviously, it's not just me. It's everybody. It's just beyond that this girl was brutalized in her apartment, killed her family. You know, she was erased from their lives. And this person who did this to her is just going and living.
Yeah, it's not right.
It's
not fair.
beyond.
And, you know, cold justice, I hope they have other evidence because really they're just doing the same thing
Right.
Abilene already did.
And maybe they're just not saying because
Right.
it's an active investigation.
Right.
There's probably a lot of information we don't know or I don't know from doing all the research.
Sure, hope so.
You know, as an active investigation, they can't.
Right.
So that's all I'm hoping is that Jennifer's family get justice for her death. And whoever did this to her, you know, obviously Ralph is suspect one and only, that they pay for what they did to Jennifer.
Agreed.
Because, you know, she had the goals and the dreams to one day get to New York City, and that was taken away from her.
Yep, but not
she
by her own
worked
doing.
her tail off in college.
Yep.
And it's just beyond sad.
Well, thank you so much for telling her story.
And condolences to Jennifer's family because it's just terrible.
You had a special young lady there.
Absolutely.
We're sorry for your loss.
Yeah. Thank you guys, though, so much for being here. We truly do appreciate each and every one of you.
Yeah, and real quick, before you get to the last part, if you've listened to like 3 or more episodes and you like what you hear, we are just a little mom and pop podcast. We're not like, you know, just this big conglomerate that you see up at the top and all these other folks. So every little bit you can do to help us. I saw some people commenting on YouTube last week. That was super cool. So thank you very much. But just in case you're wondering, I'm Pa.
And I'm Ma.
Yeah, so Ma and Pa over here, we appreciate your support any way you can give it. So if you can't afford anything, just go ahead and give us some likes and give us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple, anywhere you're listening.
And even if you don't watch on YouTube, just you can head over there and subscribe.
Yeah, just give us a thumbs up, throw in a comment, whatever. You know, you don't have to watch every week. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. We would just really, really appreciate it.
You're all part of the Crime and Coffee Couple Club as far as we're concerned.
Absolutely. And until next time, bye.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.